Welcome back to the news at 10. 4 policemen attached to the Ogun State Police Command have been sacked after police authorities found them guilty of extortion and bribery. The officers have also been found guilty of violating the first schedule of the Police Act regulation on corrupt practices and discreditable conduct. The officers were made to face a panel after a series of complaints through a petition to the police on how they forcefully collected money from someone whom they accused of stealing a mobile phone. The officers forcefully made the accused pay the sum of 50,000 naira for bail before he was released. The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, who approved their dismissal, says the police will not tolerate any form of corruption and will deal with any officer involved in such act. In sports news, we begin with the Nigeria Professional Football League. League leaders Plateau United this evening defeated Akwa United 3-0 in Jos to stretch their lead on the NPFL standings to 5 points. Emmanuel James, Emeka Omer and Kabiru Umar were the goal scorers for Plateau United at the Wangpam Stadium. At the Jos-based club continued to edge towards their first ever top flight title. Defending champions Enugu Rangers were held to a 1-1 draw with relegation-threatened Shooting Stars at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium, Enugu. Wiki Tourists beat Kano Pillars 2-0 in Bauchi. In other league games, Enyimba moved up 4 places to 3rd following a 3-0 win over Niger Tornadoes. Sunshine Stars recorded an impressive 4-2 away win against ABS FC. Meanwhile, the league management company has rescheduled the matchday 28 NPFL clash between Remo Stars and FC Fayuba, initially scheduled for today, for Tuesday in Shagamu. The match was called off after several players of hosts Remo Stars were affected by food poisoning. The LMC says it acted according to the NPFL rulebook for the 2016-2017 season regarding the rescheduling of league fixtures. AS Roma defender Antonio Rodiger has completed his move to Chelsea and signed a 5-year contract. The agents involved in the deal arrived in the English capital at the weekend to finalise the transfer after the 2 clubs agreed a fee that could rise to £34 million for the 24-year-old German international. Personal terms have now been completed and Rodiger has become the Blues' second major signing of the summer after the arrival of Manchester City's goalkeeper Willy Caballero. Meanwhile, Manchester United's former England captain Wayne Rooney has rejoined his boyhood favourites Everton on a 2-year deal from their Premier League rivals. Rooney scored the winner for Everton against Arsenal in the Premier League while only 16, but moved to United 2 years later for a fee reported to be £25 million. Scoring a hat-trick for United in his debut against Fenerbahce, Rooney went on to play more than 550 games, scoring 253 goals to become their all-time leading scorer. At United, he won the Champions League, 5 Premier League titles and the FA Cup, and was Footballer of the Year in 2010. To Formula One, Valtteri Bottas has claimed his second win this season with victory in the Austrian Grand Prix ahead of Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo. Courtesy of his second place, Vettel has extended his lead of the World Championship to 20 points after Lewis Hamilton was unable to pass Ricciardo for the final podium position stages. After Bottas beat Vettel to pole position by less than 1/10 of a second on Saturday, less than a second separated their 2 cars when they crossed the finish line.
Yeah, I had a bit of a deja vu in the end, what happened in Russia. You know, he was catching up. But the problem in the last stint, I had a massive blister in the rear left since lap 5 of that stint. So that made it quite tricky. In the beginning, I could control the pace, but in the end, you know, the back markers made it quite tricky. But really happy. It's only my second win in my career. Thank you guys for the support. And massive thank you to the team making this possible. So thank you guys.
Very close. Yeah, I was told he's in trouble. I was pushing anyways. I felt much happier in the second stint, second part of the race. The first part of the race I was struggling a bit to feel the car. But then, yeah, as soon as we put the super soft tire, the car came alive, and I had a really good pace. I was catching little by little, but then he obviously struggled. So the last laps, it was getting really close. I think I had Perez, which cost me a bit of time with lap cars. But yeah, I think I needed one more lap because he was really struggling to get up the hill. But yeah, obviously wanted to win. Nevertheless, a good result.
The Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has congratulated Iraqi forces involved in the fight to take over Mosul from the Islamic State militants. The city had been seized in 2014 by the militants before taking much of Iraq's Sunni heartland and proclaiming a caliphate from Iraq to Syria. Prime Minister Abadi, who visited the troops, said he was there to announce the city's full liberation.
After 8 months of urban warfare, Iraqi forces celebrate what they call their victory over the Islamic State outside police headquarters in Mosul's Tayaran district. Soldiers dance and even point their guns into the air to celebrate. Some even wave the Iraqi national flag, while others wrap themselves with it. The excitement heightens as Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi joins in, congratulating the armed forces for their victory over the Islamic State. The battle has left large parts of Mosul in ruins, killed thousands of civilians and displaced nearly 1 million people. According to state media, 30 IS militants were killed as they attempted to escape the advance of the Iraqi forces by throwing themselves in the river Tigris. The government announced the liberation of eastern Mosul in January, but the west of the city, with its narrow, winding streets, has presented a more difficult challenge. The Islamic State group has lost large parts of the territory it once controlled in Iraq since the regional offensive began. Analysts, however, say the fall of Mosul doesn't mean the end of the Islamic State insurgency in the country. The militants still have territory in areas such as Tal Afar and 3 towns in the western province of Anbar, and is even able to carry out bombings in government-held areas.
U.S. President Donald Trump says U.S. sanctions imposed against Russia for annexing Crimea will remain. The president tweeted that it would be premature to consider relaxing the sanctions until the Ukrainian and Syrian problems are resolved. Russia, on the other hand, insists it will not change its policies on Ukraine and Syria because of the sanctions. Parliamentary International Affairs spokesperson Konstantin Kosachiev says U.S. policy towards Russia is not determined by requirements of international relations, but by the zigzags of U.S. domestic policy and the confrontation between Trump and Congress. And the main news again. Governors of the Southeast and the South-South are meeting in Ebonyi State today, and from feelers at the meeting, the governors are continuing discussions on restructuring Nigeria, regional cooperation, as well as the need to practice true federalism. Also, Iraqi authorities are today celebrating the recapture of Mosul from Islamic State militants 3 years after the city was proclaimed a caliphate. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Amarachi Ubani. Good night.